do it. So we go, and the doctor's like, okay, I gotta test your contribution.
Yeah.
And then, we go for this big meeting. I'm sitting there with my wife and the doctor, this lady. They're like, your swimmers are not moving very quickly.
Like, what do you mean my swimmers are?
Your sperm is not like...
No,
and they're trying to say it like super nice because they're thinking like...
No, I'm kidding. I know what you mean.
He's super masculine. He's going to get pissed. He's going to be like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, so they're like dancing around it like, You're
like,
really
you
trying
can speak straight to me.
Yeah, and that's why I said I don't need the sugar. What's the deal? They're like, well, you can improve the quality of your contribution. You got to stop smoking weed and you've got to... stop smoking weed and you've got to... take these supplements and this and that. And for about 6 months. And so I was like, okay, no problem.
And that's been okay?
Yeah, it's been fun. I've been a pot abuser my whole life.
You have?
Yeah, like I was the kind of guy who wake up at 3 in the morning to go to the bathroom. I'd hit the joint.
Yeah, on the way. Why should you walk empty-handed?
But I also I always tell people I was very lucky in the sense that like weed was my drug of choice.
You were yeah, that's true.
Because I've been around every other drug. I mean, I've moved every other drug all over the planet. Right?
That's a good segue to start this interview. No, keep going. I literally don't like start the interview. I like flowing into it. Okay, so you've been around all other kinds of drugs because why?
Well, I trafficked drugs when I was younger. Mm-hmm. I moved drugs all around the world, back and forth across the Atlantic.
Right. He says casually. I mean, duh. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, this is what's your name? Introduce yourself.
My name's Louis Ziskin.
Yeah.
And I'm here today to have a chat with Haley about what would you call it? Rebounds, revitalization, reinvention.
Sure, all of that. That's
refocusing on life.
Yeah, so I always tell people like it's not a sober podcast. I mean, mine happened to be I am sober and I'm reapproaching life, but that was my form of self-abandonment. So I want to bring people on that have had different kinds of the key is the self-abandonment part and how you get back on track. And you have just so I met him at a 4th of July party officially. We go to the same gym, but officially at a 4th of July party, and jaw on the floor. I was like, you what? You where? With who? When? And it was just like, please come on my podcast and just talk to some people about it, because I want people to see what it looks like when in different ways that we can abandon ourselves and that there's ways that we can rewire and come back to, my God, I mean, look at your life now. The contrast isn't evident yet, but it will be once you tell people where you came from. So yeah, that's what I would say. It's about bouncing back.
Yeah, well, I mean.
So you moved some drugs.
I moved some drugs, mainly cocaine to Europe and ecstasy pills back.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved that shit. I
swam in it. People who like cocaine love cocaine.
Swam in cocaine.
People either love it or hate it. It's funny, right?
Oh, I loved me some.
Cocaine people are really cocaine people.
I am cocaine people.
Yeah.
I mean, not anymore. But
do you ever notice, like, there's, I'm the godfather of famous musicians' kids, right?
Uh-huh.
And their band was a very big band, and they broke up, right? And there's all kinds of books about it. I'm not going to name who, but I've always been of the impression that because the singer was a pothead and the other two main players were heroin junkies, that was the root cause of all their problems. Because potheads hate everything about heroin addicts, right?
Facts.
And heroin addicts hate everything about potheads. Like,
I didn't know they had beef like that. I just thought
their behaviors are so
true.
Yeah, they
get stimulated in a very different way.
Yes.
Correct. I get it. I see what you're saying.
And so I always thought that, right?
Yeah.
That was the reason why, and
that's funny.
It's people who do drugs have definitely they have a stereotype about them. Like meth heads will steal your wallet and help you look for it.
Damn.
Right?
Damn.
That's what meth heads do.
That's funny.
Anybody who's ever dealt with them knows that.
Okay, so they're a little...
Right,
Would you say that they're wild cards of?
Yeah, I think also there's stages of drug abuse, right? There's people who once they get into the abuse thing, it's not just, oh, I'm an abuser. There's stages.
Well, your mind changes as well on the way. You probably don't even realize you're getting,
And the appearance changes and everything else. No different than, I guess, psychologically speaking, for me, when I started selling drugs or trafficking drugs, at first you don't think much of it, right? Like, oh, it's, small quantity.
Easy money,
I'm putting it in FedEx. I'm shipping it to my person overseas. And, you're getting some money back.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you've got to bring cash back from the UK.
Oh, gosh.
You're taking a risk with that, right? And then you have to trade the UK pounds into dollars when you get back here.
Gets more complicated.
Gets more complicated, and you're not making any money for smuggling cash back here. And next thing you know, instead of just sending cocaine and bringing cash back, you're sending cocaine and you're bringing ecstasy back. Because one, that solves your business problem of no free felonies, which is always bad business. No free felonies.
Of course. I know all about this. I'm just kidding.
And next thing you know, you're in this thing, and next thing you know, you got cargo containers and air cargo, and God. The 2 kilos is 20 kilos is 100 kilos.
How fast did that get to that level, would you say? Like from the day you started to like when you were moving really like significant amounts. How long
about 6 months.
6 months?
Yeah.
That was so fast. Wasn't that fast?
It's one of the things like me and Tamer Ibrahim, my best friend and partner, actually, him and I beat the prisoner's dilemma together.
I know, you were telling me about that. Okay, tell me that.
Informed on our case. Wow. It was one of the things that we were always amazed about, right? Like how it got that big that fast. Because when you start adding it up, I understood the cocaine to Europe thing. You can't get enough of it there. But you start bringing millions, I mean, literally millions of pills back, right? Yep. And you start wondering, where are these things going? Like, who is taking this amount of ecstasy? And you couldn't get enough of that back either. So it just started, and we weren't even, to tell you, honestly, we weren't like born and raised gangsters. We didn't look at this as a business. Every time we do some shipping. Are you
willing to talk about it? Yeah. How did you even get in it?
We do some shipping, and then we'd want to, buy cars and party and travel. And, we never really, everybody always looks, it's the biggest ecstasy case in U.S. history. But we never systemized it. Everyone was like kind of a one-off. Oh, we're going to use,
But at some point it got structure.
It got structure just because it did, not because we were trying to structure it. It got structured based on what worked, right? So if you consider all the stuff we did, puzzle boxes into, the very first one I bought a police car and a fire truck that kids play with.
Okay.
I opened them up, unscrewed them, I put half a kilo in each of them, and I sent them FedEx.
What is it with you and FedEx?
Well, it was just,
It was the most...
It's funny because in business, this applies too, right? When in the startup game or anything else, I had one piece of information that I'd come across, and it was about FedEx drivers. And FedEx will not allow their drivers, their insurance company, will not allow their drivers to participate in controlled deliveries.
What does that mean?
That means if the cops got your package and they're gonna,
I need tissue. Sorry, go on.
No cocaine, right?
No. It's been like an hour.
I'm just teasing.
I'm kidding. I should get a tissue though before I remember where you are, so it doesn't look weird. I was about to sneeze, and I was like, no, it's getting so good.
So you work with Haley?
No, I work with the studio.
Oh, here,
studio assistants. Do some like video post-production and stuff.
Oh, nice. You do editing and stuff like that too?
Bit, yeah.
Are you learning along the way?
Sure, yeah. I teach
that's great.
Video. It's really fun. I really like it.
That's good.
Couldn't do it in a better place. So.
That's nice. It's nice to find somebody who likes their job.
Yes. It's very, very refreshing.
Yeah. So I had one piece of information about FedEx's insurance company will not allow its drivers to do controlled deliveries, meaning you send a package FedEx. It's supposed to be there going east or west. They tell you 24 hours, but it's more like 36.
Okay.
Right? If it's going to get there on time, right, and it's going to go through customs at one point.
Okay.
If customs gets it and the police find it and they decide to deliver it on to try to bust the organization, the FedEx driver, who's your normal delivery driver, will not be the one driving the FedEx truck.
Okay.
Their insurance company will not allow them to participate in that.
Did you find this out how? Like you just...
I knew a FedEx driver. Now I had this information in my head, right?
Slick,
like it wasn't like but when the idea came maybe a year later to start doing this, I had that one piece of information. And I say
so
it's like,
useful too.
It's very similar to like business. If you look at most founders, and they've started successful companies, it started with really, when you break it down to one kernel of information. At Facebook, it was a line of code and algorithm that nobody else had. There's always one little thing, and everything gets built around it, right?
Yeah.
And as we get older, it gets easier because we've learned little kernels of information.
Yeah, I know. You're like,
that are valuable in all kinds of different things.
Yep.
And when ideas meet knowledge, you have a great potential for success.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what it was. I knew. So I knew, okay, if you watch or you have your friend who you're sending it to watch, the package actually get delivered, and it's the normal FedEx driver.
Right.
It's safe. Wow. Also, if it's not the normal FedEx driver, and we found this out later, obviously through, following them, because we saw a controlled delivery of one of our things once here on 3rd Street and La Cienega area at a mailbox place. So the cop who delivered it in the FedEx truck with the with the FedEx uniform on.
Sure.
And then took off racing, breaking every traffic law, going 3 blocks away to a staging area where there's like 8 black Suburbans lined up, right? That's not a FedEx driver.
I'm freaking out.
And so they have a tracker in that box. They're monitoring it for when it gets open so they can't. So obviously nobody picked up that box because we saw that, right?
But did you have somebody always monitoring this? Or like how? Okay. So there's always somebody on watch for the FedEx trucks.
There's this thing with I think crime that also applies to business, right? Which is preparation versus desperation.
Yeah.
Desperation is I'm desperate, I'm going to do something crazy.
And then you're
whether it's business or your business happens to be criminal. If it's preparation, then hey, if you're not making enough money to watch your shit land, then are you making enough money to risk going to prison? So this is what I mean in the difference between preparation and desperation.
Right.
Desperation, and I guess this relates back to, making bad choices in life that you need to recover from, right? You have to recognize that same concept.
Oh. But then you also have, no matter how you look at for a period of time, you were wildly successful at this. I mean, your mentality and your ability to take those risks and maybe ignore some of those alarms going off is also, when do you know when to listen to the alarms and when not to? Because after prison, now you were at Forbes, right? I mean, you know what I mean? You just have a good instinct for these things somehow, even though it at one point led you astray.
Yes.
Or maybe more than once, or what would you say?
Yeah, no, I would say a good portion of my life, most of my problems are because I have a high risk tolerance.
Okay.
I'm a little bit of a pump-up case. People tell me I can't do it, and I'm immediately want to
You're like, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, and I think that comes from when I was younger. I was, humiliated and pushed around a bit. Maybe they call it bullying now or whatever. And
I can't. He said, today they call it bullying.
But I'm 55. So when I was younger, a kid beat you up in school.
That's it. Yeah.
But I think, when I was younger, I was insecure, a lot of lying, a lot of stuff like that, and not standing up for myself.
You lying or lying around
me
you?
Lying, yeah. Okay. Me lying based on insecurity, wanting to be cool, wanting people's approval.
Right.
And, getting pushed around and not standing up for myself. And, enough of that happened where then I got really beat up once, right? Where I opened my mouth back, and I wasn't having it, right? And it was the worst ass beating I got.
Yeah.
But you know what I realized the next morning is that ass beating, as bad as it was, didn't feel as bad as all the other times when I did nothing. And I think like my life started changing at that point, right? And you know, so that was an evolution there, and that led me to the other extreme of like, hey, I can play the drug trafficking game with the big boys.
Was that a conscious decision? Did you say I'm going to get into drug dealing now, or did you just see an opportunity in that moment and you were like, I think I'm good at this?
I was at a party in London.
Yeah.
And the dudes who were supposed to be running shit
goes down in London.
Had some yellow cocaine. Okay. Now, sometimes yellow cocaine is good, but this wasn't that kind. Okay. You can tell, like, right? Like, you know, when you look at it, it's not like nugs.
He's like, powder, you loved your cocaine. You know.
So it was like that. I was like, mate, this, you know, and I'm like, you guys are supposed to be running shit. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is garbage.
So it's
and right away, they were like, these were serious guys.
Yeah.
Right? And they were like, and I didn't realize at the time, I was just a drunk, stupid fucking kid talking shit, trying to get laid and show off.
Totally.
Right? And
how old were you here?
I was 26.
26. Okay.
Yeah, about to be 27.
Okay. Go on. Sorry.
And they were like, hey, you're taking the fucking piss, mate. You can do better. Yeah. And I was like, of course I can. I'm from L.A. Yeah. Fucking, are you kidding?
I love that American pride.
I didn't even have a cocaine connection for kilos. Like, I knew a dude to call for an 8-ball.
Stop. Yeah. So in that moment, you were like, I'm going to take this on.
Yeah, so I got back. You know, I'm on the plane flight home is where I started thinking about it about a month later.
Yeah.
I'm on the plane flight home, and I start thinking about it. And I start thinking about that kernel of information I had about FedEx, right? Because obviously you think of all the ways to do it. And I'm like, okay, I don't know about shipping containers yet.
You're making a business plan.
I didn't. Yeah.
I'm dead on the flight black.
Yeah. So, you know, so I'm thinking, okay, if I got it. Because I do have a friend of mine, Simon, who, you know, he sells grams.
Okay.
He was one of these dudes who, you know, 10 grams, he wouldn't, if you buy 3, you $60 a piece.
Okay.
No 8-ball discount, nothing. He'd put 10 in his underwear. He'd
you could call it 8-ball if you want to. But
yeah, he'd drive around in his black Porsche.
Yeah.
And as soon as he sold those, he'd drive home and pick up 10 more. And this dude went on for years, and he turned, you know, $15,000 kilos of cocaine into $60,000. And, you know, I mean, he'd do that about 1.5, 2 times a month.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and that was his hustle, and he wouldn't sell. He'd sell you ounces, 28 grams.
Well, that's because if you have over a certain amount or you sell a certain amount, right? The time is different.
And it'd be 10 at a time. And, you know, he'd just keep them in his nutsack, and that was it. And then he'd drive home and pick up 10 more.
That's what's crazy. I was going to say that's what's nuts, too. No pun intended. But, like, you know that bag has been in places that it's...
Yeah, so his...
You don't care.
Well, that's a, you know, funny... sidetrack, but funny story about
I love that. That's my interviews.
When I was locked up in prison, guys would swallow balloons of weed, all kinds of drugs, right?
Okay. Oh,
but I'm
so glad that's where that went. He said men would swallow, and I was like, oh God.
Every now and then they shit them out, right? And then every now and then there'd be a tear in the balloon, so you'd get this balloon of weed, right? And you'd open it up.
Just slurp this.
You'd open it up, and there's a little brown spot on this weed, right? But nobody threw it out. They put it on the side. They ripped it off. And next time everybody was out of weed, you were smoking.
I'm crying. Woo!
Yeah.
I'm about to say I've never been that desperate, but you listen, Junkie Me loved her some drugs. I don't know. I never got there. I'll tell you that. Like, oh my God.
Now, some guys were better. They'd pour shampoo down their throat if their visit was short and throw it up, right? Especially the dudes who are heroin, cocaine, all that shit. Because, you know, the big problem there is that the girlfriend will make the balloons for you in prison.
Yeah.
The girlfriend will make the balloons for you, so when you get a kiss when you first get there, right?
she'll...
Yeah, and then she'll go to the bathroom right before she leaves, take a few out of her box, the last few, and then give you another kiss, right? Well, you're always gambling that your girl is going to know the difference between biodegradable and non-biodegradable balloons if this is what you do. Because if she gets you a biodegradable balloon, right, and that heroin or cocaine opens up, you're done. You're done. Yeah. And the fact is it happened. It happened, and it even happened with the weed. That's how you'd end up with a little tear in it and a little brown spot on it, and it's all condensed and rolled, chronic, sticky, but all rolled up in the tightest ball you can make. Mm-hmm. So you rip that little piece off, but
so did you smoke it? Did you ever smoke?
Of course I did.
I'm dead.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. Oh, golly.
Because especially, this was at MDC.
Because, what do you have to do there anyway, right? You got time to kill. I get it.
Yeah, at MDC, at Metropolitan Detention Center, you don't get weed all the time. Once you get to the prison yard, you can get it. The cops, everybody's dirty. Everybody's bringing it.
Yeah.
Drugs are the number two
accurate?
babysitter.
The way we see it in movies, is that accurate? Where a lot of people are easy. There's always a few of them that are corrupt.
It depends on the prison. First I went, after my case, I went to United States Penitentiary, which is the federal high security, right?
Because, go back. So your case was the largest one in the U.S. For drug trafficking?
No, for ecstasy trafficking in U.S.
Ecstasy trafficking. And then you got convicted for that?
Yeah, I had 2 indictments.
Yeah.
First one, I got sentenced to 30 years. Second indictment was continuing criminal enterprise kingpin 848. I fired my attorneys. I represented myself. I beat the life case. My appeal attorney on the 30 years was able to use the information that I generated in that case in order to win my appeal. Tenny remand to include a wiretap in the record so that I could argue it on direct appeal. This gets technical, but I'll do as fast as I can.
No, you're doing great.
So I could argue it on direct appeal.
Sir.
Anyway, then the government ended up offering 15.5. Wow. First, they offered 20 for everything. Remember, I already had 30 years. I'm looking at life. They offered 20 for everything. I said no. 17.5 for everything. I said no. 15.5.
So you turned out
for everything. No further prosecutions. None of my other friends who didn't get busted.
Yeah.
All of it's done. And then I took that.
We're going to go back to the prison stories, but I have to ask you here. You said you beat the prisoner's dilemma with the
Tamer.
With Tamer. So I told you at the party when we were talking. What a thing, because on your own, to decide to bat for yourself because you're like, well, shit, it's wrapping up this party, so I'm going to do this for myself. You couldn't have predicted, or would you say you knew that he would always not say anything? Did you know? Did you have a feeling that he would not?
So Tamer, I got sentenced to 30 years. Tamer was being held in Vught prison in Amsterdam, which is a former concentration camp. They had him in 23-hour-a-day lockdown.
Wow.
And so he gets extradited back here. I was the only one with 2 indictments.
Okay.
So all the guys from the first indictment, except the rats, they're still there to rat everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
They're gone off to prison. Then Tamer gets extradited, and he's actually also on the CCE case, Kingpin.
Okay.
He has the 848 charge also. So both of us got charged with that. Now, CCE is a thing where they have to prove a few things. They have to prove, one, that you're in control of 5 or more people.
Okay.
That you receive a lion's share of the profit, and that there's 3 consecutive transactions.
And was
doing
any
the
of
same
this
thing
proven?
Well, so the reason why the cases overlap so heavy and what happened in the CCE case affected my direct appeal is that 2 of the predicate offenses of the 3 that they were using for the CCE charge to prove the elements of the offense, I was found guilty of in the first trial. So there was a huge overlap.
Okay.
And so discovery in the second case, where there was wiretap evidence that showed that the informants were lying in the first case, became very relevant in the second case.
Which you were repping yourself.
Yes.
Got it.
But it also became relevant on my direct appeal for the first case. Now, normally, you can't talk about new evidence that wasn't in the record.
I was going to say that. And how did you do that?
Well, because at sentencing of my first case, it was the first time I asked to represent myself.
What does that mean? How did that change it? How did that...
Well, the judge said he wouldn't let me represent myself, but he'd let me speak. And I said
introduced it into the...
I started to. So I'd fired my attorney already on the second case.
Okay.
I'd received the case file. a few days before, and then I had this super cool fucking counselor, Stump Taylor, because all of Luis Palazzo's case file was in these 3-ring binders, which you're not allowed to have, but it was a Friday. And Stump Taylor said, look, man, you're not allowed to have this shit. It's metal. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to come pick these binders up on Monday, though.
Okay.
I got court Monday.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, first envelope, first flap in the first notebook I open, right? I find the last modified dates of all the wiretap evidence. Now I've got legal boxes stacked up in my cell. I'm going through the trial transcripts, right, of the first trial of the witnesses' testimony and comparing them to phone calls. And I find 3 lies, one of them being that Mike said that the government never threatened to prosecute his girl if he didn't rat. They were basically minor lies, right?
Yeah, but
it's hard to do. You don't have a computer, you don't have indexing, you don't have I didn't know there's 1,800 hours of wiretap, going through them and pulling all of Mike's calls out and then trying to match them up to his trial. Anyway, I found 3. So right before sentencing, they have something, Rule 25 A, B, and C, I think. It's some rule where any reason why sentence shouldn't be thing, and C was my thing. Hey, I want to talk to and the judge.
Did you know any of this
myself.
before? Did you know the law? Do you have any history?
Yeah, I already started studying. I knew this part. I didn't know a lot yet, but I knew this part.
Wow.
So because it was relevant, because I was going to get sentenced.
Right.
So I said, hey, and the judge says, well, I'm not going to let you represent yourself. And I was like, listen, according to Ferretti versus USA, and I knew this also.
Well, we have a right to.
As long as I understand the charges against me, as long as I'm doing it of my own free will, and as long as I understand the consequences
of sound mind, yada, yada.
Guilty verdict, then you can't stop me according to the Supreme Court, Your Honor. And he's like, well, I'll let you speak. So I said, here's government-generated material, wiretaps, that shows that the witnesses were lying on direct examination. And the judge says, okay. And I said, Your Honor, are you saying you're not even going to look at this?
Right.
And he says, the record will stand on its own 4 corners. I find it, and then he said something. He said, I find it ironic that on one hand, you're in here saying the rule of law doesn't apply to you, and now you want me to apply the rule of law to the government. And then I said, so now I know he's not going to do anything.
Right.
So I said, this is the tip of the iceberg. There's hundreds of these. I just threw a Hail Mary.
You didn't know that, but you just said.
I had 3.
You had 3.
But I said it's in the record.
Well,
now.
It's indicative. I don't know. It seems like you, again, like even the guest I had before, I was saying that you had those impulses that like you trust them. You trust them.
I knew there was going to be.
Well, if you found 3.
I knew there was
reasonably there's going to be more. Yeah. And maybe you knew that in that moment.
But so this was the key thing on my appeal.
Okay.
Because then the judge goes on, sentencing me to 30 years. And
how was that?
And I'm on direct appeal. Oh, my mom in the courtroom.
Well, I would imagine, but for you,
for me is like that's the moment I remember, is the sound that my
Your
mom made. Like for me, I don't remember how I felt in that moment. Actually, I was pretty. I remember I said, "I'll see you on appeal." Was kind of you
were gonna fight,
Mr. Cool Guy, right? But what I remember emotionally is the sound that my mom made when sentence was pronounced. It hasn't left me.
Yeah.
Like it's.
I don't
want to compare my mom to an animal, but it was very much like a
No, I get what you mean by that. Wounded animal. Yes.
And
I get it.
I still hear it even as we're talking about it as if it was 5 minutes ago. It's just one of those things.
Hey, you came from from her. I get it. You must have just physically felt that heartbreak too. My God.
So anyway, I'm off to representing myself in the second case, and my appeal attorney on the first case, Chuck Sevilla, who's just absolutely the best.
Yeah.
One of the very few attorneys I have something good to say about. I don't like most of them. And he filed my appeal brief and said, hey, we should be able to argue this wiretap evidence on direct appeal because the government withheld it and hid it during the first trial. And the government said, well, we didn't. We gave them some. We just didn't know about this. And not only that, but this would be new
Just
evidence.
out there gambling with people's lives. You got to love it.
Not only that, but this would be new evidence. So you're going to need to bring that up on habeas corpus. And then my appeal attorney's reply was, well, habeas corpus creates a higher standard of review, so the government will get a windfall benefit from withholding this material because it'll have to rise to a higher standard for my client to prevail. And the appellate court said, you're all wrong. The judge made clear error when he chose not to look at the evidence and make a finding. So we're remanding the case to include the wiretap in the record so that it
Is
can
this
be argued.
luck or did you strategize? Like, what do you think?
I think it's a little of both.
Okay. That's crazy. And then on top of that, the whole thing with your friend and
listen, I mean,
my God.
Ego-wise, I can certainly go through and tell you all the things that I did, and a million things had to line up, and this and that and the other thing.
Yeah.
But if we're being honest, certain things just fell into place that almost
well, you weren't going to back down, I think, is what it was. Because, I mean, fuck,
that were not in my power, not in Tamer's power. There was just certain things that happened along the way. Yeah. That, our investigator.
That made it work out.
Our investigator found the T2S2 machine, which, we found out it was made by Converse Info Systems. That's what the DEA uses to record wiretaps. Okay. And then we found a Mexican law enforcement agency that has the same machine. Okay. We were able to get the operations manual in Spanish, have it translated to English.
Like a dog with a bone.
The notebook that I got that day.
Yes.
That Stump Taylor let me have. I mean, there was 14 notebooks there. Each one of them has those big rings, and each one of those rings, there's 3 rings in each one.
You could do something with it, and that's why you're not allowed to.
There's 3 rings in each one, so there's 6 knives that you can make in 14 notebooks.
That's insane.
And he let me have those notebooks because he knew I had court on Monday.
Do you think it's not?
And he did. He picked the notebooks up Monday, right? I didn't.
Right. You didn't do anything with it. But you're saying that he happened to trust and support you in that way. Well,
I think there was 2 kinds of cops that I ran into. One that hated me because I had more than them. I'd lived a life that they're never going to live, and I was a criminal or any combination thereof. And then there was other ones who knew the full force of the federal government. Yeah. And to see somebody that didn't rat when 95% of people do rat in the feds, that is willing to fight all the way to the end, I do. I think there was some of them, and I actually, it's not just I think, I know there was some that respected that.
They wanted you to win. Yeah, they wanted to help you win.
We love underdogs in America, right?
We do.
Like
we do, and we love a comeback story. Yeah. No, but that was kind of going to be my next question. Do you think that because of your attitude towards everything that was happening, meaning okay, fuck it, I'm going to fight, do you think that attracted these people? I mean, I guess we would be going into energy in that whole thing, but I do kind of think it's a real thing. I think that you attract people that based on how you operate yourself, right? And I think people must have seen that. My God, he's going for it.
Show me who you run with. I'll show you who you are.
Right. Yeah. Show me who your friends are. And I'll show you who you are. Yeah. I'll tell you who you are. Yeah, exactly. So I think that you must have just maybe even people that might not have bothered with some people that would have been maybe sent it, not because they don't care, but you have to be willing to fight, isn't it? Especially when you're in that position. My God, what a thing.
Yeah, and most people don't. It's like what we were talking about the party the other day.
They would have thought it's over.
These moments in life where, and I've fallen short of my own aspirations for myself as I was growing up. I talked about when I was younger, I didn't push back when people pushed me around. I remember all those moments where I didn't live up to the man or boy at that time that I had this self-image of, right? We all have this self-image. Yeah. And it's so easy to say, oh, people do this all the time. Oh, if it was me, I would have done this. If I was president, I would do that. If that was me, if my boyfriend did that to me, that's what I would do. Yeah. If my girlfriend did that to me, this is what I would do. If that was my boss, this is what. But when we're actually in that moment, right? that's when you find out what you would really do.
Yeah, you said that at the party, and it really stuck with me. I actually repeated it to people. It's like when it comes down to it, you hope you are who you think you are.
Yeah, and so for me,
and I was like, damn, that's a word.
One of the positives about the whole experience is that I found out, leaving aside the glorification of crime and drugs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But in that moment, when my whole life was on the line, sentenced to 30 years, plus looking at a life case and representing myself, it doesn't get any bleaker. The smart money at that point is I'm never going to see the sun go down outside the walls
Well, I told
again.
you that. The rats actually make more sense in that context, isn't it? Get out of the trap no matter what. Get the fuck out no matter what. And so you're the bad decision, but if it worked, it fucking worked.
Yeah, it's the one that doesn't make common sense, right? Especially when you consider the biological imperative of self-preservation.
Yeah.
But for me, self-preservation was...
You can't live without the honor of it.
I thought about... Listen, a lot of guys act like super tough guys. Right?
Sure.
Like, I've lost more fights than I won. I never sold drugs with Pablo Escobar, and I laid awake many nights thinking about ratting. I did.
Of course, I would imagine.
What I couldn't get past, and why I never did, it wasn't because there isn't other people I would have rather seen in prison. It was that I wasn't going to be able to look myself in the mirror anymore.
Right.
Like some
then
people,
what's the point? Yeah.
I think some people are very capable of looking in the mirror and lying to themselves.
Well, it's correct. I think I agree with you. I think it's about what your moral compass is, because it's at any cost. Is it at any cost? Should I get out of this at any cost? Any cost? And then what am I left with? And I think a lot of us don't get to face what you've faced and ask ourselves that in that kind of raw way, where you literally like facing down such a drastic change in your life. I mean, quite literally, you would have. I mean, that's the rest of your life.
Yeah. So there was that, and the other big moment for me, which also I think it's very parallel to people who are rebounding or rehabilitating from bad decisions. Right? Is those kind of moments. And there was one other moment that hit me when I was in the SHU. I was in the hole under investigation. And I was very angry at the informants. Very, very, very angry at the informants. And for the first few years. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. If I'm half as smart as I think I am, then I should have seen it coming. So the more I blame them, the more I'm actually belittling myself. And then that
accountability, we love that.
Yeah, then that opened the door to actually what was the key to self-awareness and growth to me, which was I then realized that I was a bad person who did good things once in a while, rather than a good person who did bad things once in a while.
Wow.
And I did not fucking like that. It bothered me. It sat
Did you not like
me.
it because...
The minute I had that realization, it bothered me, and that was my goal for when I came home, was that I would have my relationships with people would be benign or positive. Whereas before, the truth is I didn't care as long as I got what I was looking for.
Why didn't you care, do you think, before?
Because I just, I justified it. The smarter you are, the easier it is to manipulate yourself, right? The easier it is to make justifications. Hey, I'm in the game. Everybody's in the game, whatever. Nobody's promised a happy ending. Every man for himself, right? You start justifying these behaviors, and you really just don't give a shit about the collateral damage. Up until that point, I never thought about how many kids
you're providing,
used ecstasy as a gateway drug, because I was always justifying it as like, hey, I got 3 tons of cocaine out of America, according to the feds. That's not the number. It was much less. But according to the feds, right? Now, this is cocaine that already beat customs and the FBI and is already on the streets. So I got that out of here and traded it for ecstasy, so it didn't matter. Like, this is how I justified these things in my head, right? Like, I did a good deed.
I love that. Self-deception. You got to love it.
Yeah.
No, okay, this made me think of something. So do you think that we not everyone gets these extreme consequences that you got to face in the end of that. But that's when you discover that, shit, I don't think I like myself very much. I don't think I'm a very good person. But for people that don't face the kind of challenges you face eventually, or the consequences that you face, do you think that there's a reality where we go around doing that and it's kind of chipping at that we're not very fond of ourselves and actively making these decisions every day? But because we don't face these consequences, you never get an opportunity to reflect, like, because it took you the shoe. You were convicted, and you were in the shoe. That's kind of how deep your self-deception ran, isn't it?
Yes.
Until you were quite literally just robbed. You were stripped of all your freedoms.
It's the rock bottom, right?
It's quite literally
the criminal life, like
the bottoms of all bottoms.
It's the rock bottom. You're in the prison. Yeah,
you're the prison of the prison, and that's when you're finally like, shit.
And you have yourself. And I also look back and think I'm fortunate because some people go crazy in there.
Yeah, I've heard
I became very introspective and analyzed. Self-awareness came to me through those moments. Right. And I think it's very similar to the addict's path. Right. Like some spiral down all the way. And unfortunately, some end up passing.
They pass on. Yeah, correct.
Others have this moment of self-awareness.
Yeah. What a moment, though. If you can face it, if you can take it.
And I think people, everything is to what, we can never understand somebody's life the way we understand our own. Like, life, while we can share things with each other and do things together and talk to each other, life is a solitary experience. Nobody's ever going to walk in your shoes ever, not for a second.
That's real. That's so true.
You're never going to walk in anybody else's shoes ever, not for a second.
Agreed.
Like, it's a solitary experience.
It's a solo ride, baby. Yeah, no, agreed.
Yeah.
And I mean, absolutely, there's huge parallels about, bouncing back from addiction and how isolating it can be. The self-deception is very similar in this regard. I cut you off earlier when you were talking a little bit about the prison stories, and I asked you, is it true what we see portrayed in film in terms of there being corrupt? Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah. So
that we abandoned. I feel like you had something to say, and I just got so
no,
you're so
I
interesting.
Was just explain,
I steered him to other
at
things.
High security level in the United States Penitentiary, right? You're dealing with guys. There's 65% of them have life sentences. They're never coming home. The cops behave differently there. The guards behave differently there. Okay. They just kind of want to do their 8 and hit the gate. The number one babysitter is the television. The number 2 babysitter is drug flow.
Right.
If everybody's high on heroin, right? Like, when you got to watch out in prison is when the heroin dries up. Because there was a riot and they slammed visiting or locked down.
And they have nothing to lose.
Now people go start collecting. Okay. When everybody's high, shit's, pretty...
You get a good shift. You get an easy shift.
But what I will say is I think...
It's my mother. God bless. I'm busy, Mommy. I love you. I'm in the podcast. Bye. We're going to keep that. She calls me at all times.
I do the same thing when my mom calls.
Oh, my gosh.
I answer no matter what.
Yeah, I'll answer. Well, like, I'm busy.
But I will say this. While there's tons of... There's a lot of bad things that happen in prison, especially at the higher security levels, and there's tons of violence. I do think that a lot of guys come home and they take 20 years of stories and try to put it as a day in the life. When actually most days ain't nothing happening.
It's quiet, okay.
Because people want visiting open. They want, there has to be movement in order for drugs to flow and this and that. They want to play their cards. They want to play basketball.
Yeah.
They don't want to be in like these, even in California State, once you end up in the indeterminate shoe stuff, even though it's over, like there's not a lot of action.
Yeah.
So, most of
the time, then it's rather
there is
quiet.
Yards that crack every time they open.
Yeah.
There absolutely is that, but for the most part, I think a lot of people, at least people I know, the stories that I've heard, like from Victorville, USP Lompoc, all these places, from 25 years ago, right? Like, when I hear the stories, this person's basically trying to say they were a tough guy because they were there, right? Like, and the truth is like any other, you see a guy in the pen and then you see him a few years later in a FCI, a correctional institution, and he was a Christian brother or a Muslim brother in the pen, and now the Bible or the Quran's in the trash,
now
and he's
we're
back
done.
to being a gangster.
We're done
again,
now. Yeah,
right. Like
it's a skin they wore, I guess, to protect themselves inside.
And but he's a super gangster again, and he's stabbing people and this and that, and he put in all this work at the pen, and I'm like, no, dude, you didn't. Like, I don't say anything.
You're
but,
like, excuse me?
If you did all that, you wouldn't have got out of the pen. You wouldn't have come down in security.
Right. I mean, it's logical. Exactly. It's
Now, not to take anything. There is some guys that live that life that are, like very, extremely violent. The gangs can be extremely violent. There can be. I'm not disrespecting or saying that doesn't happen.
No.
But I am saying for the most part, most of the people who get out on the street and talk about it are full of shit. They might be telling a true story that happened.
That's exaggerated.
But they didn't do that.
Right. I mean, look, it's like, I'm sure, again, do you think maybe it's a way to cope? Or do you think, like, would you imagine, like, if people have been in, say, max, I can't, even for people that had the most uneventful days, it all depends how you can handle that kind of isolation and having your freedom stripped, right?
Well, I think
so maybe it's their way of being like, it wasn't that bad, I promised. I was a bad guy.
Well, they want, listen, and maybe that is, right? But I think a lot of it is just everybody likes to feel special.
Yeah.
Right? So some of us, like when I was younger and I was insecure, in order to feel special, I'd tell lies. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I don't really think it's that different in the sense of like, hey, I'm going to come home and I just came home from prison, so I'm going to act like a super tough guy. I watch a lot of podcasts with because I know some of the dudes who do the crime stuff, right? Like I've met them over the years, so I know a couple of them. So I watch and then they talk about this one or that one or the other one, and I'm watching it and I'm like, I know like 90% of what these guys are saying they did in the joint, they're full of shit.
That's hilarious. But you were obviously not going to maybe there was just that understanding that, hey, let me have this. Let me just have this.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know them. I don't care. I don't know if that's their on-thing persona or whatever.
You're just making an observation. No, I understand. I want to ask you, so when you got out, this is after 12 years served? Right? Yeah. Okay. So is that for good? You said you were sentenced to 17. Is that
15 and a half?
Okay. But you came out
188 months total. So I got all my good time, which is 54 days for every
good behavior,
year you
is
do.
that okay, got it.
And then I got the drug program, which gets you another year off your sentence.
Oh, amazing. Okay.
And then I got 10 months halfway house and home confinement. So I was technically in custody 13, but I always say 12 because once you're no longer behind the fence. You were
out of the
halfway house home confinement.
You're like, it's not in there. I'll take it.
Yeah. I mean, but I was technically in Federal Bureau of Prisons custody
still
for
in
13 years.
System. So, okay. And then within 5 years, you had done a startup and you were on Forbes.
Startup drop-in, went from prison to Forbes in 5 years.
I know. I love that little tag because I think that's the same. I'm not going to call it delulu, but I think there's something about how you approach things that's just like a dog with a bone. You're like, well, I'm not just going to be free. I'm going to thrive and have an amazing life, and let's go. And then he did that in 5 years.
I think there's similar things. Like I look at guys who, like a David Goggins. Again, I don't know him. I watch a little bit of his content, but he loves the people that write hate comments in his social media. And he reads them before he goes running. And they pump him up and he uses them for motivation. Instead of getting mad and getting in a fight with them, he has found a way to use that as fuel. So similar situation when people tell me, oh, you're a convict, you can't start an insurtech company. Like, for me it was like, yeah, I can. You can't maybe, but I can.
But it's the same thing where like you can't represent yourself. Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Like there's just that attitude. I think that's been your saving grace. Maybe has gotten you in trouble in the past as well when you didn't know how to navigate. Right. When you didn't know how to navigate it. But I think like that moment of clarity and when you were in the shoe in the prison of the prison, you got to love that. It's the stubbornness is deep. But to have that to be able to zoom out of yourself, I mean, I think that's kind of key. I think a lot of people operate with just having the kind of guts that you have, and they think this is great. This will take me everywhere. This is what I need to excel. One of the sides has a hole in it, and I don't want it to show. Okay. And I think that maybe that's the.
You gonna leave that in?
Yeah, I do. I like very organic. Like, I like this chats. I think they're just so chill. It's not a gotcha podcast, you know. I just want to be very like natural about it. I think that, do you think that maybe balanced that impulse out? Because your impulse is, first of all, made you a lot of money with drugs for a long time, right? And then you got caught, and then now I'm in trouble. Okay, I'm going to swing for myself. Like that instinct, it's just very like we were talking about at the party, it made more sense. It's more logical to rat in that moment. Just get out of the trap, right? No matter what, throw anybody the fuck in it and get out. And it's just, you had one of those situations, like you said, you hope you are who you say you are, because you were in an extremely, unpleasant, and you got the clarity that I can't live with myself in this. These are the
situations we all face.
Yeah.
These are the moments. How much of my ass am I going to give up?
Yeah.
How much am I going to give up for a hit of cocaine? Yeah. How much am I going to get? How much of my company am I going to give up to an investor?
Yeah.
How much of my self-respect am I going to give up to get out of this situation? Mm-hmm. These are the commonalities of like what we've been talking about between my journey and yours, right? These are the choices that always come, and they're exactly the same psychology, right?
Right. The extremeness of it is the only thing that differs, but you're so right.
Yeah.
It's in the same vein, 100%.
And, you know, I really need to get high right now. Everything in your body's telling you that you have to.
And then you have to figure out what you're willing.
Sacrifice for that.
Yeah. What am I willing to give up?
Right? Like, same thing. Everything's telling you have to get out of prison.
Yeah.
You're never going to sleep with. I'm never going to sleep with another girl. I'm never going to go on another date. I'm never going to be out at my favorite restaurant. I'm never going to see my mom except behind the glass. Or actually visiting in the feds is
that contact. The sorrow didn't take you out alone is insane to me as somebody who wasn't in the process. That the sadness and like you were just ready to. You're like, let's swing.
Well, there was moments like that. Listen, also, I'll freely admit, there was many nights where I was laying in my bunk fucking crying. I was happy I had a single cell. You have moments of uncertainty, but that's where your character is tested. Mm-hmm. Same thing with recovery. There's moments of uncertainty. There's that thought, right? And it starts creeping on you. Do you go to a meeting, or do you call your sponsor? Yeah. Or do you dive into that thought and relapse, right? Yeah. So the same thing, it's creeping up on you and it's on you and it's not going away. But that is where our character and personal integrity is really not only tested, but if we can clear that hurdle, forged and strengthened.
Well put. So real. So exactly. It's lonely in there. It's lonely in there. So you got to strengthen that muscle, I think.
But those are the moments. It's similar to one of the things I do every day is I think about the 3 things I don't want to do today. Whether maybe it's fire someone, maybe it's call somebody because we didn't get a contract or something. Whatever it is, something unpleasant. And I make sure that I'm doing the first one as I'm walking out the door.
Oh, I see.
Even if the things don't go my way, my quality of life is better for the whole day because they're not riding my back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a thought, not a decision. So you're and separating the two is a skill and that you should.
That's where
that was a really good thing to say. That was brilliant, especially for an addict's mind. Have to learn to sit there.
But it builds. Huberman did a great. I don't know if you've met him at the gym.
I haven't. I want to.
He's super. I like him. Right?
Yeah.
Like he did a great actually with Goggins. This was
okay.
And they were talking about there's this part of your brain that every time you do something that you don't want to do. That part of your brain gets stronger. They've tested it. It's literally like a muscle.
Well, I mean, I agree. I can.
And so some people call it discipline. Some people call it whatever, right? But I think it's more than just discipline. It's also integrity. It's also determination.
Well, it gets to come in, though. All of those things, like they get to come in practice when you stop being so hedonistic and a slave to impulses. Because you can have wrongful impulses. No, it doesn't matter how they got there, but they're not doing you any favors. Let's assume that, right? That you've established that, okay, this isn't working for me. It's not helping. So instead of just accepting those things, counteraction is a huge thing for me. Like just like you said, out the door, same thing with me, and like creating a calm space for myself is kind of a challenge. I'm like, it doesn't matter. the calmness, like things being in order doesn't matter. As I'm bitching about it, I'm putting it in order, because when I come home, I get to see a nice, peaceful environment, and I can get to work because I'm painting in one corner. I'm dealing with the podcast stuff in the other. And I gave myself that peace. Do you know what I mean? I like thought for myself and cared for myself enough where like whatever impulse is informing me, that doesn't matter. I know that it's a wrongful impulse.
That work is for that moment. When you get home and you feel complete. That's the other thing I tell people all the time. I go, happiness is not a permanent state of being. If it was, nobody would want it.
Yep.
It's moments in time, right? Like that's what we're looking for. How many of those moments can we create in a lifetime?
I agree.
And each one requires a certain curation.
Yeah.
Some of it's behavioral and habits and disciplinary stuff.
Yeah.
Others is geography and what kind of friends do you have. And when you put those things together,
many factors.
you get moments in time where you can be happy. And a successful life is about creating as many of those as possible.
And I even for I know I have to wrap up. I don't for somebody that struggled to be happy and did so many stupid things to myself and to people around me, thinking it was going to make me happy. I've realized, and it's been helpful to me, I don't need to be happy. I need to be useful. Being useless was the worst thing I've ever felt in my entire life. And I never want to feel that again. I can literally go to bed and go, I'm so unhappy today, but I was useful. And that's fucking, that's amazing to me.
The most amazing thing of all these journeys, if you really think about it, right, is all the things that you did before, you can give them value through your behavior now.
You have so much
power.
You
can take something useless or bad or mistakes or everything and give them power and value through what you become tomorrow and the day after and the day after. All of us can. Like that's, so if you're going to let your past.
Be committed to being of value.
You don't have to let your past dictate your future ever. But you know what people never talk about? You can let your future redictate your past.
Ooh, I love that one. That was a good one. Yeah.
Give it value.
So real. Yeah. I learn from it. Try.
Yeah.
Try.
Well, we all do. I'm saying us collectively.
I love that. That was a good one. That's a great one to end it on, actually. I could probably talk to you for like 2 more hours. You're so interesting.
I'm sure we can do it again sometime.
I would love to do it again. I have so many things I want to ask you about, and you're just so fascinating to me. Thank you for making time.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. Haley, it was a pleasure.
It was my pleasure. Gosh, I'm going to apologize to the people outside, but you know what? It was a good fucking interview. You'll be okay. You'll all be okay. It'll all be fine. Thank you.
Good with that?
Yeah, no, that was wonderful. You gave some gems there.